This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 452. I'm Brandon Schultz, and I am joined by my good buddy Adam Emmert as our Seahawks go to 6-5 on the season after a 16-6 victory over the dirty Arizona Cardinals.
It was awesome beating the Redbirds in, we had a surprising win, I think, against the 49ers for a lot of us fans. I mean, there's people who predicted victory, right? Like quite a few of the little flockers did. But I think we all were a little surprised. This game wasn't one of those where I was like, oh, this is the for sure win. Like they'd have to really crap the bed. It's more just kind of like a pleasant, hey, here's two games in a row against division opponents and gets you to first place in the NFC West. And that's tough to beat, man. It's hard to not be excited, even considering the roller coaster of a season it's been, and not necessarily having a ton of faith that this is going to be a big season in terms of record results and playoff wins and all that. But a really good, I think, foundational game for Mike, getting the defense to stack performances and now put out what I think is probably their best performance of the year.
And I guess the surprising thing for me in this game was the way they won. I did not expect that they would be able to limit the Arizona Cardinals necessarily to 6 points. Look, if you would have told me that it was a little bit higher scoring, because I would have thought that our offense would have been able to put up more points, maybe they would have allowed more ground yards. That part of it, I definitely would have expected. I did not expect James Conner to be under, 80 yards rushing, let alone under 10.
Yeah, that part of it is the part that you should be over the moon about if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan. Just the idea that the run defense against a good run team with a good running offensive line and a good running back. I mean, James Conner is a bruiser, man. And to see him shut down in that way, and then to also be able to have a disciplined rush to keep Kyler Murray in check in terms of his running, that was, I think, one of the most encouraging signs that we have seen from this team this entire season. And I'm definitely here for it, man. I love it.
If we get this defense just throughout the season, this would be enough reason alone to tune in and watch our Seahawks close out the season. Because really, this is even the type of defense that can help win you football games in the playoffs. And there's still some work that needs to be done for it to be a complete team. We're not talking about going to the Super Bowl, but the pieces there are now on defense that they're starting to build the type of defensive squad that can win games. When you have Leonard Williams playing out of his mind, and then you have all those complementary pieces, whether it's Boye Mafe, you got Hall that's playing solid, Jaron Reed that's playing pretty well, Byron Murphy, who's continuing to grow on that defensive front. And then Tyrese Knight, you're starting to see him look a little more comfortable out there at linebacker. You're still only a couple games in with Jones at linebacker. So, I mean, shoot, there's still, I think, upward growth on this defense too, I believe.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. And then you talk about the fact that they're getting into a lot of big nickel stuff with the three safety situations, whether it was Okada in a couple games previous or now with Jenkins being back. And that was something that we talked about a lot a couple seasons ago, right, Brandon? The idea of getting into, a three safety set, having the extra safety in the box, be kind of the honey badger type player that is there to be able to help stop the run. And it's cool, man. I really enjoy the way that it all comes together. And then just the idea of Jones and Knight being out there and being assignment sound. They may not always make the play, but being assignment sound, I think that's been the biggest difference, because it's now allowed the defensive line to go out there and just concentrate on their job instead of trying to do too much. And I think that's really what has kind of unleashed them over the last two games, because the line as a whole has played out of its mind. And then, I mean, you brought up Leo from this last game. That's why you pay the man his money right there. Like, yeah. You're wondering, like, hey, is this really a blue chip guy? At some point, because you're not seeing the splash plays or the things show up on the stat sheet. But now, like with that game, you're like, oh, there it is. You could see him doing disruptive things previously, but to see it kind of come to life in that way, that was just an absolute joy. And what a monster that guy is.
I mean, he was essentially 3-and-outing the Cardinals on his own on the very first drive of the game, just because he was camped out in the backfield for the first 3 plays of the game. And then he had a big sack. His other sack, you know you're playing well when you make Kyler Murray sack himself as he's running outside of the pocket, and instead of throwing it away, just slides down short of the sticks. Like, you know, as Leonard Williams, you're having a good day.
Absolutely. And Kyler just sacking himself there. It's like, just throw the ball away. Like, what are you doing? But that just shows how frazzled he was and how well that the Seahawks were coached defensively. And this is now 2 games in a row where Mike McDonald has gone against 2 good coaching staffs, because let's not get it twisted. Gannon is a really good NFL head coach. I mean, just think about what he's getting out of the level of talent that he has there in Arizona. And then Petzing has done a great job of getting now the best of Kyler Murray this season that I think that we've ever seen. And just in terms of things that are repeatable and something they can do more weeks than not. Obviously, they couldn't do it against Mike. But to watch Mike outcoach 2 divisional coaches this last 2 weeks, that's been something to get fired up about, because this is what we wanted when we brought this dude in. Like, give me a guy who can compete defensively the way that the McShanahans and now Gannon and those guys down in Arizona are competing, and I'm going to be happy. And he's doing his part.
Well, we get the win over the Cardinals. We take the division lead. We're both tied at 6-5, but technically holding the tiebreaker, which is good. And the other part of it, yeah, you know, it's not just Leo, but it's the complementary way in which they play. I saw a stat that the Seahawks to this point in the season are pressuring quarterbacks on 40% of their dropbacks. 40%, which is incredible.
That's a massive number. And it was something that you saw throughout the beginning of the year, but they weren't getting home. And now they're getting home more often, and it's really coming to life. And I think part of that, again, is them being able to play assignment sound within their rush plan without having to worry about what the linebackers are doing behind them and all of that stuff, so that they know, like, no matter what, they're going to get it done and they're going to be able to do it the right way. And they don't have to worry about covering for other people's mistakes.
You pointed out the big nickel, and you've got Julian Love out there for 100% of the defensive snaps. You've got Kobe Bryant out there for 100% of the snaps on defense. And now with Rayshon Jenkins back, he was in there for half. And so even though he loses his starting job after getting injured, he's back in there for 50% of the snaps. And I think one of the things that I think Pete was a little hesitant to go too heavy, big nickel wise, because usually when you do that, it kind of hinders your ability to stop the run, because offenses see that and they think, okay, well, there's 3 safeties in the game. Let's run it down their throat. And even up against a really physical offensive line, a really physical running back, the Cardinals didn't go there because they were able to shut that down early.
Yeah. And when you say shut it down, like, just completely obliterate it. Like, there was nothing going on.
0 first downs. They had 0 first downs on runs. Their longest play of the day was like 12 or 13 yards, and it came on a 3rd and 15 to where they didn't even get a first down.
Yeah. And it's so refreshing to watch. And the interesting thing too is, like, with Kyler, it seems like maybe we're just his kryptonite. I don't know, but at the end of the day, like, you hear all about all this great stuff Kyler's doing. Oh, Kyler this, Kyler that. He's so underrated, and he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league, and he can really do something, and he's matured and all that stuff. And then it feels like every time that we see Kyler Murray, we see the version that I believe he is. And maybe it's just recency bias, but that's what I see when I see Kyler Murray. Just a guy who can't see over the middle well, doesn't play from the pocket all that well, can get outside and make some plays, but if your DBs are good about defending outside the hash marks, like, there's just not much for him to do.
Yeah, he hit McBride over the middle quite a bit. And you go
That's
back
because
and you watch.
they gave it to him.
They gave it to him, and a lot of it was toward the end of the game when you're, as a defense, you're saying, yeah, throw it over the middle of the field because you're down 2 possessions, and it's just going to help drain the clock. And that's where I think McBride probably picked up a good 40 of his 120 yards.
Yeah. I mean, he did get his throughout the game. I mean, it wasn't like it was just then. But in terms of Kyler and his numbers, yeah, the majority of them came really at the end of the game when they're trying to claw back in and having to throw the ball a lot. So I
only say that because we talked a little bit post game about how big of a day McBride was, and it wasn't necessarily that he was winning, significantly throughout the game. It was, a lot of it came at the end, and a lot of it was, stuff that they were willing to give up.
Yeah, it didn't feel impactful. Yeah. Right? Unlike 49ers games in the past where like every time Debo touches the ball, you're like, oh, that's a backbreaker. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't that at all with Trey McBride. And I couldn't be more stoked about the way that the defense is playing as a whole, especially when you can, link it up to Rams, Niners, now Cards, and it all looks the same. And not only the same, but trending in a positive direction. And you just can't ask for more. Like this is exactly what I was hoping to see defensively out of this team this season, is just for them to start to come together, for the talent to really show, for it to become a unit by the end of the year where you're like, yeah, that could be a top 10 unit.
I couldn't ask for more, but I do want a little bit more. Like I want that combination of Leo and Byron Murphy to really frustrate opponents, especially up the middle. And so that's something I don't think that we've seen a ton of necessarily yet, is the two of those playing off each other and having a significant impact within the same game. Because I think back to this game, and I can't think of any splash Byron Murphy plays.
No, there hasn't been a ton of them over the last couple of weeks either, but playing solidly up front. And you also have
just like Tyrese Knight. It's like there weren't any big splash Tyrese Knight plays, but he played so solid through the game.
Yeah, very functional, right? And that's been kind of the problem over the last couple of years. You're like, okay, these guys are playing well. 8 out of the 11 guys are playing well, and then there's the 3 that just look like they shouldn't even be in the league, and that's not where we're at all. I think throwing Job into the defensive back rotation too has really worked out and been an upgrade over Trey Brown, and it's just Mike's pushing all the right buttons. And it's really cool to see his scheme come to life. And that was one of the other things about just listening to Mike a lot, is just the phrasing that sounds a lot like Pete Carroll. We got to do this for it to come to life, and got to do this for it to come to life. But it really is, I think, the right way to talk about it, in trusting the process and getting to the point to where, okay, now it all clicks because we've practiced together, we've played together, we've called games together, we've figured out our weekly process together. And I think that's been a massive learning curve for Mike in this entire staff. And kudos to them for at least getting half of the team figured out at this point. And not only that, but then to be sitting atop the NFC West at the same time. Now, the rest of the teams have helped us, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool.
It's interesting how this season started with the offense carrying the team through those first 3 games, and now it's the defense carrying the team in these last few wins. So I'm curious, though, with you going back and watching some of this game offensively, I don't know if it was just because I was looking at it through a more optimistic lens, but it felt to me, I know after the game we talked about how it looked like a broken offense. Mm-hmm. It looked to me, watching back, like they had some foundational things that they were working on and trying to build into the offense, whether it was, the tunnel screen thing that they ran multiple times to JSN, some of the gap scheme runs that they were focusing on and had some success with, other times not so much. When I saw so many of those plays run, kind of in similar ways, but different enough, it felt to me like they're trying to build a foundation using some of these plays, and that could necessarily, that's what made me think, rather than it be broken, these are things that they're trying to work on. And the other clue to that was listening to Coach Mike in the presser saying how, maybe it wasn't the presser, maybe it was in his 710 Seattle show. Sports. It was the coach's show, and him talking about how they didn't have a lot of time in the preseason to do some of the run stuff because it's all mostly passing game. And now they have an opportunity to work. Well, not an opportunity, but they have to work on this stuff because they're going to need it.
Yeah, that was a comment that I zoned in on as well. The idea that he was saying, I really like our process. I like where we're going. Now, this is the same type of speak he was using with the defense when it was really struggling.
Right.
And it did come to life, right? So at the end of the day, am I going to trust Mike now to be like, okay, I've got this fairly sorted. I can keep him on point, and I've got, that energy kind of directed towards the defense. Now I can come back and look at the offense, because I know we bang on him being a defensive coach, or some of the national media guys do, right? And what are you going to do about offense then? And it's like, well, if you're a defensive coach, you know X's and O's, you know what offenses do. So he has input. It's not like he's a dummy. He knows a hell of a lot more than I do about offense. I can guarantee you that. So I'm curious to see if he is able to carry that over with the offense and then bring that to life. I want you to expound more on what you're seeing that you think ties together that is something to be encouraged by.
I don't think there's anything necessarily that's tying together. It's more how Coach Mike is approaching it. And I like I said, part of it might be optimism just on my end, because like you said, the language that we heard from Mike early on the season, he works on the defense as a defensive coach. Yeah, he's probably going to give some of the freedom to Coach Grubb to run what he needs to do while he's focusing on getting what he wants out of the defense. Now that he's there on defense, they're starting to we're starting to see an increase in run snaps. And in this game, it was very ineffective for the first 2.5 quarters. Where it turned for the run game for me was watching it was right on the Charbonnet play where they had a 12-yard run by Sharbs. It was a very well-blocked run. And
kudos
I looked
to
at that.
Lucas. Yes. Who pulled on that play.
And Christian Haynes, who pulled on that play.
Oh, okay.
And he's the one, he got the first block. Then Abe, got the other block, which sprung it open. And Charbonnet had a huge hole to run through and hurdled a dude and picked up 12 yards. And I don't know if it was a function of, I know some people saying, oh, well, the defense was tired because at that point of the game, the offense is just
defense?
What? The Cardinals defense? Yeah. I don't know.
The Seahawks didn't sustain drives all day. Why would they be gassed by that point?
I don't know either. And why wouldn't the Seahawks offense be just as tired at that point in the game? I don't think that has anything to do with them being able to run block functionally in the third quarter. And then really throughout the game, there was only one negative run after that one. They actually picked up 3 and 4 yards here and there. And I think that that's a little bit like what Mark Sanchez was getting at with why aren't you continuing to run the ball? Because after that, within the third and fourth quarters, they were having relative success with it.
Yeah, and I think that's something positive to build off of. I do. And I don't want to kill everything every time about what's happening offensively. I think,
but let's kill some stuff now, because I have some criticism too.
I think Olu and Lucas being in there and now starting to put together some games together along with the other players. And I don't know how long Bradford's out, but maybe this is the time that Haynes can really secure that spot and be that guy of the future at right guard. But getting them some snaps together, some continuity, I think that will help in the run game a little bit. But one of the things Mike talked about in that answer you were referring to on the coach's show was the idea that you have to do it to get better at it. I think the example he used is like, yeah, you can call cover 3 defensively, but if you run it, twice a season and you call it and it's not successful, why would you be surprised? I mean, that's paraphrasing, but is along those lines is what he was getting at. And that's where we're at with the run game. Situationally, it was time to run the ball there. They were trying to get after it a little bit in the first half, in the first couple quarters. Here's the things that I can't figure out. I don't see it. I don't see because Mike's talking about how, he trusts the process and the scheme and how it's all coming together and how it's all going to click. And I don't see how the running game is married with the passing game. I don't see how formationally you're doing a bunch of different plays out of similar looks. It feels like it's the opposite. It feels like we throw 13,000 formations out there to get to the same stuff. And one of the things that I noticed is, especially in the passing game, it felt like the Cardinals knew exactly what was coming. And it was a lot of zone coverage. And I didn't see a lot of route concepts that were really putting defenders in conflict if you're in zone coverage, right? So say you're in cover 2 and so you got your flat defenders in, you run a tight end on a shallow out and your receiver runs a square out 12 yards down the field to try to put that flat defender in conflict, and high-low him. I don't see this happening a lot. And then sometimes you see in these routes, like guys are just ending up in the same spot in the field. And I know that's not good offensive design. And then the third thing about the passing game that was just maddening to watch, it's 2nd and 11, let's say, and drop back pass. Is there any mesh, like little crossers, like up front to try to get 5-6 yards? Or are there any like quick stick routes or anything like that are quick game completions that you can get to or anything like that? No, there's none of that. Every single play, if it's 2nd and 13, they're going for 15 yards. If it's 3rd and 8, they're going for 12 yards. Like if it's 1st and 10, they're going for 15 yards. Most of the routes are so far downfield with an offensive line that struggles in pass protection. Like, what happened to the quick game stuff from the early part of the year? Like, I really think if they're going to struggle to run the ball and have a hard time getting to it and whatever excuse they want to make, fine. Then you better be able to be San Francisco West Coast Bill Walsh offense and really do a great job of competing in the quick game and short stuff. Like 2nd and 11, a 4-yard gain's a big deal. That gets you 3rd and like not screwed. And I don't see how the last part about it tying together and is the process right? And are we getting to where we want to go? Like, which run play looks like a pass play and which pass play looks like a run play?
That part of it is, it's completely off because if you're lined up under center, it's a run. If you're in gun, it's a pass. That's
Buda Baker knew.
Buda Baker knew every time. And he knew that if it was a run play, then he could just crash down and he'd probably be unblocked. And if it was a pass play, then he could find a way to disrupt Geno. It was interesting, though, because you mentioned that process of the offense and wondering where the quick game was. There were only a half dozen plays that were 10 yards plus down the field in terms of completions in this game. I know. It was very dink and dunk when they were working their way down the field.
Okay. All right. And to that point, and I'm glad you brought it up. So what you're talking about is receivers running everybody off, leaking a back out late and checking it down.
Or JSN.
Or a JSN tunnel screen or whatever, right? And which is basically the whole offense right now is JSN tunnel screens. Like that was their one good play all day that they could repeat. And then even by the time they got to the second half, you watch them come out in that formation where they had, I think it's a 4x1 that they were running it out of. And you watch the Cardinals the second the ball snapped and all the linebackers and DBs ran up to where the linemen were going to start to release, like trying to stop JSN. JSN catches the ball, and instead running it like you should, he like kind of ran backwards and around people and then got downfield a little bit. So thank God for his talent.
Uh-huh.
But it's so painfully predictable. And then where's the motions? Like I was told like that was the big key to this Grubb offense. Like he motions all the time, and it's amazing. They did it a little earlier in the year, and this
it was
game,
more in the run. I felt like the motions are more to set up blockers for the run game.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like then they didn't do it in the passing game, so now it doesn't look the same. Now you know what's coming. Like it's so JV, and like where are the jet sweeps? Where are the traditional screens? Like we can only run a tunnel screen to JSN.
Well, and that's why I wonder if it felt foundational to me. Like they're going back now and they're trying to figure out what they can do well to do well moving forward. And that's why it felt dysfunctional to me. But also I looked again at our conceding the line of scrimmage watch. 64 plays in shotgun or pistol, 12 under center.
Yeah, it's not an NFL offense, and it's going to look how it looks, and it's frustrating. Like, look, if this is part of the process that it takes for Grubb to make his adjustments, find what works for him in this league and everything, like going down the stretch, like what I want to try to do is not be so frustrated by it and be more immersed in the process in the hope that it's going to be like the defense that once they kind of get it to click, then all of a sudden, boom, like you're like, oh, look at that. There it is. That's the offense that he's been trying to get to. It feels so far away. And
I mean, the defense felt like it was far away 3-4 weeks ago, too.
It's true. It's true. And I guess the contrast is like, you know, one of the commenters that we had gone back and forth with on an earlier show was like, I still don't understand your obsession with the run game.
I have that right here. It's from Vinny L 6420.
Vinny, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Says, once again, I still don't get your fascination with running, even if it's killing drives. Our own line couldn't create holes for catfish. K9 still refuses to be a one-cut back and looks for explosives way more than he should. I don't know why you would have a problem with that, by the way. Sharps is
it
basically
does bug me a little too. It does.
In this game?
Yeah, in this game, I get you.
There was one play early on where people were killing him on. And if you go and look at the film, it was because Charles Cross like slips and is down on one knee in front of him. And he's like, okay, well, that side of the play is getting blown up. I'm going to cut it out the backside. Cross like miraculously recovers. And then it would have been a really good lane to go through. But I mean, if you're a running back judging by, oh, my tackle is halfway on, you know, he's on one knee, like I'm not going that way.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I thought he found space when the initial hole was blocked up. Anyway, Vinny goes on to say, Sharps is basically useless right now. His best feature is probably in pass pro. K9 average 2.6 yards per carry, Sharp 3.7, with a 31-22 split taking out Geno's rushing. The only real success the team had was in the fourth when the Cards defense was exhausted and the O-line could push some people. That mixed with Grubb not being creative is a recipe for disaster, honestly. We also shoot ourselves in the foot way too much, killing any attempt at getting the run game going. This current team, built the way they are, cannot be a heavy run team. We don't have the coaching or personnel to do it. Maybe that gets addressed next year, but would make our offense even more anemic than it currently is. We don't have the facilities to be a physical football team. Sharp is the weakest power back I've ever seen. Our tight ends, who are supposed to be good blockers, haven't been consistently. Being a run, pass, punt team isn't going to get us very far. Cool. Mike wants us to be a run team, but he won't be saying that when we have the defense on the field longer than they have been.
Is that possible? Look, there's 1,000 things wrong with this train of thought. One, okay, first, what is your obsession with the run game? Just go watch first half of Ravens Chargers from Monday night.
You need the run game to win football games, especially in the playoffs. And look to this past game that we just watched. The Seahawks almost gave away the game late because they couldn't put together a competent run game late in the third and fourth quarter, or they didn't trust it. And it could have been that they didn't want to trust it. And if Geno throws another pick down near the goal line, yeah, I hope the defense stops it. I kind of expect them to stop it. But you're giving them an opportunity to get back in the game late when all you need to do is cram it down their throat, continue to run the football, and close the game out when you're up 2 scores.
Yeah. So you're 100% right. 1,000 things to get to within this. But one, going back to Chargers-Ravens, like both Lamar and Herbert are having some of their best seasons ever. And that's saying something for Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
Because they went out and brought in Henry, and Monken is a guy who is a ground and pound type of offensive coordinator. And they allow the offense to get into rhythm running the football by emphasizing it back in training camp rather than starting to do it week 12. So that's one big thing right there. And it takes so much pressure off of the plates of Herbert and Jackson to where they don't try to run around and make a hero ball play, which is something that Geno has really regressed into this year because of the fact they can't run because of the fact they won't run the football. They won't run the football. And you can't tell me that they can't, because they did it late in the game. Like, it happened.
They set up blocks. They made blocks.
And it's not because the Cards were tired. It's not like the Seahawks dominated time and possession all day and they were just gassed. This is a Cardinals team that hadn't given up a touchdown in like 2 games or something crazy like that, right? Like, this is a good defensive unit. It's not like you don't get any credit for running against the Cards late because they're just a terrible team, wallowing at the bottom of the NFC West cellar. It's not the case. But back to K9 in the terms of this comment. He's saying, well, not a one cut and go back. And sometimes that does frustrate with K9 for sure. But you exacerbate that situation when it's a lot like the linebackers and the defensive line that we were talking about earlier. Like, linebackers doing their job, defensive line knows to do their thing, and they don't have to worry about doing more than what they're supposed to. This is the same thing that's going on in reverse on the offense. Offensive line isn't consistently getting it done up front, and that is true. That is true. They're not a great offensive line. Let's not try to pretend they're a good one. But that makes it so that K9 is trying to guess and do too much and not being able to play in flow. And it really does hinder things. And it's because they don't do it often enough. And then thirdly, it does not have to be catfish, run, pass. This is something that I am so sick and tired of hearing from all of the catfish, air it out, air raid, get 15 receivers out on the catfish field and throw the ball over the catfish damn yard. I am so sick of this. It doesn't have to be 2 yards in a cloud of catfish dust. Again, go back and watch Ravens catfish and Chargers. Like, there's so much creativity and so many explosives that can come out of the catfish damn run game. Look at the catfish Eagles. Like, look what they do with Saquon. The thing that drives me the most nuts and why I'm so obsessed with running the catfishing football is because at the end of the day, I know if I put Kenneth Walker in the backfield for the Philadelphia Eagles right now in their scheme, do they have a better offensive line? For sure. But in their scheme, he would look a lot like MVP candidate Saquon Barkley right now. We are wasting one of the most talented football players in all the catfish league because a college coach wants to play air raid nonsense. So it doesn't have to be run, pass. What I'm talking about is, say you pass on first down and it's incomplete and it's 2nd and 10. That doesn't mean it's pass. Right. You can go pass and then run and pick up 3 yards, and now it's 3rd and 7 instead of 3rd and your catfish. Like, I'm so sick of this catfish. It makes me nuts.
And I take issue with like what Vinny's saying too, is taking away from our commentary that we want to be a run heavy team. I'm okay with being a more pass heavy team. I just think it's really important that we also need to run the football. And like you're saying, if it's 66-33 for a majority of the game, and then once you're up late in the game and you need to close out a game and you shift to where you're a little more run heavy than pass heavy, and maybe you are going run, pass because that's what teams do to help close out games because you want to control the clock. And maybe you even go run because you are starting to wear the other opponents down by that point. Then that's great. That's when you want to be able to lean on the run game, but you can't get there if the guys aren't running the ball early and setting the tone early.
That's right. And look, you may kill a drive, maybe two, by trying to stick to the run game and get things going and get the line in a rhythm, get the back in a rhythm. Listen to running backs talk. They talk about their rhythm running all the freaking time. It's important. It's something you need to do. And just wanting to be balanced doesn't mean that I want to play frickin' Paul Brown football from 1944. Like, right. That's not what I'm trying to get at.
And look at the Ravens, too, because Lamar Jackson leads the league in passing yards, and they have one of the best ground games. Like, you can have both.
Yeah, yeah. And just look at the way the Chargers season has gone. How many games are they chargering these days? Like, I know they lost on Monday night. Ravens are a good team.
They didn't charger that game, though.
But they didn't charger that game. And the reason is that they've become more balanced. They're playing good defense. Like, this isn't up for debate. This isn't an opinion thing. Like, this is how freaking football works. It's how it works.
Professional football.
It's how it's been, and it's how it will forever be until they start playing flag football. Like, it's just the way that it is. It's like being mad at the sky because it's blue. Like, I'm sorry that you just love to pass the ball all the time and you think that, that's going to be a measure of success. Like, okay, fine. But it's just, you're going against the fundamental laws of the universe at this point.
But EPA, Adam, what about EPA?
Catfish! EPA! I'm so sick of all the advanced stats, too. Like, take them into account. There's something to add context possibly to what's really going on. But you can't live in that world and expect to win football games. And then, like, the last point that I'd make to that comment is, well, you're killing drives, and it'd just be better if we just throw it all the time, is essentially what he's saying here. Just abandon it. It sucks. Well, okay. Is it working? Like, right now, is it working? Like, is this a good way to play football offensively with this team?
Yeah, 16 points. Not 10 points.
No. 10 points.
It's 10 points.
And they've looked like a dumpster fire for like 4 weeks. Like, because they start to figure it out. I mean, cards were dropping their dudes. And again, you play a lot of zone when you don't have a bunch of studs out there like Witherspoon and Woolen and, the type of guys that we have where you can man up a lot more. They're dropping into deep zones. Like, almost every single play that was a passing play, linebackers and everybody would just drop back and play a zone at the sticks.
Yeah.
The underneath stuff was open all freaking day, but we never had a receiver running there. Like,
and didn't Geno eat up zone defense under Waldron?
Yeah. With crossers and things over the middle,
right.
Which, they could have done more of. And that's a pet peeve we've had for years. But the idea that you're like, yeah, just scrap it. I don't even want to try. What's there to lose? This sucks balls. What we're doing now. Like, what is there to lose?
One thing that I was a little bit disappointed by going back and watching too, where the number of runs inside the tackles, like, where were they? On a day where it was wet and slippery, they constantly ran outside the tackles. There was like 3 to 5 runs inside the tackles that I counted. And some of those too, it was just because they got tackled inside the tackles because they couldn't make it to the outside in time.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder how many of those that ended up bouncing outside were designed to be, in between the C gaps. I don't know. None of us would unless we were.
There weren't a lot of bounce out ones. A lot of it just seemed to be. I didn't see a lot of starting inside and bouncing out. I saw more going outside and then bouncing in.
Yeah. And because of not being under center, because of not doing play action, because of trying to get it established early because you didn't do it throughout the beginning of the season, and now you're desperately trying to get it going, it becomes so painfully predictable that an offensive line that is struggling, like, doesn't even have the element of surprise, which is the number one thing that you have on offense. The play, they don't. But now,
unless you tell them,
you do tell them right now. You get out there and you on first down, you get under center. You just wrote a handwritten note to the opposing DC and every player out there. Hey, running the ball, probably going to be off tackle too, and just throw run blitz at us.
Yep.
And I think the other thing, maybe Grubb's calling more runs than we know, and Geno's checking out of them. I'm not sure.
Right.
But like one of the things I noticed going back to the Philly game in Ravens and Chargers, like some of the teams that I think are playing the best offensive football in all of football right now, even the Lions, same thing. They get 8-9 dudes in the box defensively. There's no kill, changing the play and all that stuff. You know what they do? They run it down their throat.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not afraid to impose their will. And I feel like that's where it's at for us right now. So I don't think it's an obsession. I think it's just a fact of life that this is how offensive football is played, especially in today's NFL with all the too deep shell coverages and a lot of the linebackers and everything getting smaller and faster. This is the natural evolution, the pendulum swing that is occurring right now that we need to be on board on instead of trying to play 2014 NFL football.
I guess the other part of that too, like really going in and looking at the plays this past week, if Geno is changing the plays, then it's going to have to be, hey, Geno, when you recognize a light box, like they got 45 times in this game against the Cardinals, they only ran the ball 15. And again, like 3 of those were inside the tackles. Call some inside runs when you're going up against the light box and run it down their throat.
It's hard to do when you live in the gun because now you're basically your only answer is a draw.
Right.
Like if they were, I don't know, call me crazy.
Which Geno did switch the play to on that 1 3rd and 4.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe if you're under center and you're doing things that look like a run potentially or a pass at like any given time, a legitimate threat to do either. Maybe when you see a light box because they're guessing pass because it's hard to know, now you can check to the run and actually have an effective formation to run the ball out of. Like this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying it needs to tie together.
Right.
This is why, to me, why I see bits and pieces of non-broken things. It's like shattering a glass and picking up the biggest chunks and be like, well, that part's not broken. Like the glass as a whole is broken. This offense is broken. And it's breaking Geno.
It just depends on what are we putting it together in a thoughtful way now moving forward, or is it just going to be continuing to try and figure out how it goes together? That's a hard question to answer for Ryan Grubb and Mike McDonald, right? Like we're in the middle of a season. You're leading the division somehow. Is now the time to strip it down to the studs and try to build from the foundation back up? I think it's a better time now than to wait until the offseason.
Well, because then
you said you're like, for example, you said you're tired of them wasting K9.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a waste then for the usage of K9 through the rest of the season?
Look, I was going to try to paint these two sides of this coin here. I'm 1,000% on your side of the ball when it comes to this. Like, yes, strip it down to the studs now. What the hell else do we have to lose? It's a transition year. Get after it. Pitter patter. What's better than live game reps, right? But also, if you're thinking as Mike McDonald, like, hey, we need to have some success to be sure that I don't have to fire Ryan at the end of the year and that we have some continuity with this staff that's trying desperately to find it. And I think they're showing it in some areas, which is awesome. Do you scrap it right now, or do you just try to ride it out and be like, okay, next season, all right, Ryan, like, what are we doing here? And figure it out. I don't.
If Coach Mike is the guy that I feel like I'm starting to get a sense of, he's the fix it now, build for the future, keep things, because I don't sense frustration necessarily with Ryan Grubb and his comments.
He was giving him some coach cover this week. Woo-wee.
He was giving him some cover, but I think that's also what you do as a good coach. And
yes,
I think it's also what you do as a coach who's trying to keep it together. And I think he likes Ryan Grubb.
I like Ryan Grubb.
I know.
Like
he's a guy that's hard not to like. He seems awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to have beers with Ryan Grubb. He seems like a fine fellow. I actually genuinely dig like the way he talks about things, like, all that stuff. Like, he seems like a good dude.
He seems like a guy who can figure it out too. Where with Shane Waldron, I had questions.
That's true. That's true. But one of the things about the way the offense is built now is you hear Mike talk all the time about like when there's adversity or what you're trying to do as a team is like, well, there's no way through it, but to go through it. Right. And to me, that means offensively, like trying to play some smash mouth football, trying to do the things that you're not necessarily good at early. We're way too late for that, but do it early so that you go through the problem. And I feel like what we did was the exact opposite, because you see, again, Ravens, Chargers, Eagles, the run game sets up these big chunk plays in the pass game. And what we're trying to do is get to the end game of the chunk plays and live and die there without going through it, the problems, by trying to establish this run game as a more balanced offense.
Well, they're going to have another opportunity coming up here as they travel across the country to take on the New York Jets, and a team that's broken in many ways, but also they have a lot of talent.
Yeah. One of the more perplexing teams in all the league, just in terms of, like you said, a lot of talent, record doesn't match. A lot of people point to it's the owner and it all just trickles down. Maybe that's true. That tends to be the case for a lot of organizations. Jets have been this way for, since Joe Namath hung up his cleats, right? So it's probably no surprise. But I think the one thing I take away from the Jets this year is that a tried and true, another, like, as long as football is football, this is going to be a truism. You can't microwave a championship team. And that's what they tried to do. A lot like the Eagles and the Dream Team back in, was that what, 12? Or, somewhere in there? Somewhere in there,
yeah. It might even been a little bit before that. It was, but
maybe it was 11.
You can understand why they would feel that way, because it was a team that was so close. They had a defense that really looked put together. They had a defensive coach that seemed to have it figured out with Robert Saleh. They had a lot of the pieces on offense that it looked like they were just the quarterback away.
Yeah. And an offensive coordinator. And unfortunately, what they did is they tried to hire both those positions in one dude. And a guy that, see, again, this is another excellent example of how you can break an offense with the way that Aaron Rodgers approaches football. Because you need an OC to be able to tie everything together for the millionth time. And what Aaron does is he walks up to the line and he just sits in matchup hunts all day and changing plays with no sense of the continuity of what you're doing in front of you. He's just hunting matchups. And at the end of the day, that's pretty boom and bust. And right now, with his talent level where it is at 40, 41, however old he is, on one leg, and, Alan Lazard, and, the end of Devontae Adams, and then one legitimate awesome receiver in Garrett Wilson, it just doesn't look good. But another cool test for the Seahawks defense in terms of, here comes Breece Hall and, some big offensive linemen. Can you do it again? Can you slow him down, even though it's not his best season rushing the football? For the reasons we stated earlier.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers will turn, is that his birthday on Sunday? December 2nd? Is that when we play?
I've got the perfect gift for Aaron Rodgers.
That's Monday. So, okay. Yeah. It's his birthday is the day after the game, but
sweet. We'll give it to him early.
He's turning 41. Yeah. Early birthday present, multiple sack game, Leo Williams, back-to-back, big performances. I do question about the health of Aaron Rodgers, because I go back and I watch these last couple games. He hasn't completed a deep pass in the last 2 games. He's only attempted 9 passes of 10 or more air yards in these last 2 games, and he was 2 of 9 on those attempts. So he has had the bye week, which, unfortunate for us, we're going back-to-back weeks of a team coming off the bye. I feel like the Jets, whereas I thought the bye might be detrimental to the Cardinals, I think the bye could be beneficial for the Jets, because they can get a lot of this, turmoil and nonsense now that they've fired their coach, they fired their general manager, and now they're kind of in a place too to where they're not completely out of it. So players might still think that they have a shot to make a run. And now here the Seahawks coming to town, they have the talent, like you pointed out, on offense with Breece Hall, really talented wide receiver with Garrett Wilson. Lazard, I think he's on IR now, but Devontae Adams, we saw some physical play out of him against the Colts. So he's coming off a bye too. These old guys coming off byes that have a lot of talent are the ones that I'm worried about.
Yeah, I mean, their bodies could be rested up and all that. I'd say in terms of Aaron and him throwing the ball down the field, looked a lot like this in his last year at Green Bay too. Not really getting the ball down the field. So a couple big things I think with Aaron is, one, I just don't think he has the deep ball in him, not in terms of just raw arm strength, but accuracy plus arm strength that he used to, and he doesn't trust it. He doesn't trust his offensive line to hold things up because, and this is the biggest thing, and every great quarterback will tell you this when they knew it was time to hang him up, dude does not want to be hit anymore. No. He's done being hit. It's over for Aaron Rodgers. Now, does that mean that he's for sure going to lose against the Seahawks? Absolutely not. This is one of those games I look at and I go, oh, great. Okay, so we got the Jets. This is I talked about surprising win with the Niners, like pleasant win for the Cardinals. You're like, that's a good team. Like, cool, but we could beat them. Look at the Jets and be like, this should be a slam dunk. But in between the 2 Cards games, I mean, this screams trap game. And so that worries me a little bit. But at least it's at home. And in terms of the bye week helping out, I would have guessed that the bye week would help a team like the Cardinals out a lot better, where their coaching staff is good and they've got an extra week to prepare and do all that stuff. Whereas the Jets, Albright or Albright or however you say Jeff's name, the interim coach, like they're all just trying to
interim
hold
Jeff.
on.
We'll just call him interim Jeff.
Interim Jeff, trying to hold on for dear life and just steer this thing to the end of the year. And I don't think the extra time helps them at all. And then secondly, in terms of the hoopla, has the hoopla gone down this week or has the hoopla gone up? I think the hoopla has gone up.
I mean, I feel like the hoopla around Aaron is constant. So I don't even know if it necessarily matters.
Extra hoopla.
There's a little bit of extra hoopla. I don't know how much of buy into it I see, because there's the reports about, Aaron wants out of, he might come back next year, but if he does, it's not going to be with the Jets. And then you hear Aaron go on Pat McAfee where he has his weekly spot and he's like, no, I don't even know for sure if I'm going to play next year. I haven't really thought about it, and I would love to come back to the Jets. So it's he's gone out of his way to dispel all that.
Just by saying it's hoopla, though.
Aaron doesn't care about that necessarily, though. I don't think he sees it as hoopla.
That's why his teams turn into this.
It reminds me a lot of Brandon Marshall when he was here in Seattle, and it was like, oh, he has this weekly show that he does. Even though he's a professional football player, he has like his media appearance that he's obligated to every week, and whether it's his choice or it's very weird.
It's very weird. I mean, keep getting them checks, Aaron. I know he gets paid for it, and I think it's over $1 million.
If he has to be there every week.
Yeah. So congrats to him. But there is talent all over this.
And Jets. Especially on defense. The weird thing is that with the Jets, like the Cardinals, they play above their talent level on defense because they play real hard and they're coached real well. And I think that Ulbricht's a good coach. He has an amazing beard, probably top maybe the best beard in the league among coaches now that he's a full-time head coach.
Strong statement. And I think you might be right there.
I mean, who else are you going to pick?
Tomlin's beard is like just, forever strong.
Sure.
But it's not like, what's the new Christmas movie out with the actor from Montana, JR, what's his name? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Red One. Ripped Santa. He's got the solid beard. That's Ulbricht's beard.
He looks like he could be Ripped Santa. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the weird thing, though, is with all this talent on the Jets defense, they tend to play below their talent level on defense.
They do. They've done it all year. Sauce isn't having a great year.
He's okay, but he's not as great as we have seen him be in the past.
Yeah.
DJ Reed's the best corner on their team this year.
Yeah. Welcome back, DJ Reed. Yeah, seeing him again. Tough guy to see have success after you let him go. But
I know.
Chuck Clark's a good safety.
Yeah.
I am terrified of Quinnen Williams. Terrified of
Will McDonald.
If I'm the Jets, like I think Will McDonald's a little overhyped. Like he's fine.
Yeah, he's their leading guy in terms of pressures and sacks.
Yeah, I know, but like he's not a game wrecker or a game changer.
Part of it is probably teams having to worry about Quinnen Williams.
Yeah, Kinlaw hasn't played as you saw him back with the Niners. Hassan Reddick has always been one of those dudes that I've looked at and been is
Hassan Reddick even on the team anymore?
Absolutely. He's signed. He's been back. Yeah. Yeah. But I don't blame you for not knowing because he's always been a who guy for me. Okay. If I'm the Jets, I take Quinnen Williams. I line him up over top of Christian Haynes every single snap.
Hassan did have a good game against Houston.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just from his time in Arizona that I'm like,
he would have his solid games against us randomly.
Solid. Sure. Yeah. CJ Mosley, we'll see if he plays. He's a damn good linebacker. I don't know. This feels like a team that's gone fishing.
It feels that way a little bit, but if DJ wants to have like a revenge game and starts firing up his team members on defense, and Sauce is holding some kind of grudge from his battle with Reek Woolen from their rookie year and who's better, I could see them finding a way to try and pump themselves up to especially when they look at the Seahawks coming off a couple wins and they're like, oh yeah, let's we don't have anything to play for. Let's, really go after these guys because, I don't know, try and show that Geno doesn't have anything to prove, even though Geno is undefeated when he goes to the Meadowlands now that he's left there.
Oh, that's a good point. I always forget about that. And you talk about DJ Reed revenge game. Like, how many times does Geno want to get revenge against the New York Jets?
I would hope every time.
Yeah.
So
I don't think there's enough, right?
No. And to be able to do it in the Meadowlands with Woody Johnson watching on when he doesn't have anybody left to fire, well, he could probably find somebody to fire still.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
They're talking about benching Rodgers. There was that report that came out in the past couple of weeks.
There were some of the rumors that, Woody would give him the Daniel Jones treatment even.
And use him at scout team safety?
Yeah. And then just release his ass.
Sure. Yeah. No, Aaron wouldn't. He wouldn't do that. He would just not show up.
Oh, yeah. He'd be like, I'm going to Africa, dudes. See ya.
Uh-huh. Well, I do hope for a Geno revenge game because I'd like to see Geno bounce back a little bit. Can we have a 0 interception game, Geno? We've had way too many Geno 1 interception games this season.
Oh, yeah. And just in some of those 1 interception games, it's been just way too many. Like, what in the world was that? Like the pick in this last game, like throwing to Tyler. I saw one comment somewhere that, somebody was like, he was late. He was wide open. And then you go back, you look at it, it's like, he wasn't ever open. That corner baited him the entire time, playing in zone coverage.
Yeah.
Sitting off in more the flat cover area. The second that Geno.
If Geno would have thrown it more toward the back of the end zone, then Tyler would have been wide open.
Maybe. I don't know.
Because there's no way the corner's getting that deep.
Well,
but
yeah.
as soon as the corner started to roll out, as when if Geno would have pump fake, he would have seen the corner go that direction, and then he would have had the wide open field to the sideline just to be able to run it out of bounds.
That's true. One of the few things that I'm really excited about with this matchup with the Jets is that, we're bad at running the football. They're worse. So that's exciting.
You mean on defense in terms of run stopping, or do you mean that they've been worse at running the football on offense?
Yeah. Yeah. They're near the bottom of the league. Defensively, it looks like they're in. Why does ESPN not put a number next to the list?
I've got it
now
right here.
I got to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're eighth in the league in terms of stopping the run. So I don't expect Ryan Grubb to start to get the offense on track that way this week.
I have him as 22nd on run defense and allowing 130 yards per game.
Oh, here we go. I guess I had it sorted wrong. Here's what I did. I clicked on defense, and then I clicked on rushing, and then on defense, and then it just showed me total defense.
Oh, gotcha.
And
yeah, they are 8th in total defense.
Okay. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, no, they're one slot above the Seahawks in run defense.
So there you go.
Maybe. Did I take it back? Maybe this is the game that Grubb gets it going. Who knows?
Well, we'll have to see. We do hold the edge defensively because offensively, they have been a relative dumpster fire. 27th ranked offense this year.
Yeah, it's been bad. And, you talked about the Geno interceptions and not an interception game. I think we can get there. And I think the answer is fairly simple. And we talk about risk management and, what certain situations and where your head should be. For Geno, it's a simple thing is all he needs to do is he needs to increase the risk management while he's in the pocket and just let it rip more and then dial it back when he's outside the pocket. Because not that he can't make awesome throws outside the pocket. We saw it late in the game. He hit a 3rd and 8 where he's scrambling around and
early in the game too, where he scrambled outside the pocket and threaded it in between 3 defenders to DK.
Right. So it's not that he can't do it. It's just that I did it. And oh no. Right. In the pocket, he's a lot better with that. So just increase the aggressiveness in the pocket and dial it back when you're outside the pocket. Because I think we did see him pat and hold the ball a little bit, even though there's good coverage a lot of times with their zone coverage downfield.
And then the one time where he had DK and he was really raring up to let it rip, Cross gets beat around the outside and turns into a strip sack. Exactly.
But we should probably throw it more so we could have more of those.
I want to see some deep throws to DK.
Me too. The thing is, you have to do other things to get to it.
Well, we will see against this relatively okay defense, or it can be. Let's see a nice clean game from Geno. That's what I want.
I'm just hoping that Aaron has truly just grenaded this entire locker room and they just don't care. Because that's how it's felt. Let's hope that continues and they all just mail it in for the rest of the year. I would hate for them to fortunately we had the NFL is drunk week this last week, with Titans and Berman had a great fastest 3 minutes.
Carolina Panthers hung in there with the Chiefs.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just what is going on out here? Right. So hopefully all that's over last week and things will be on a more normal pace this week. And
we get to see a similar style game to where the Cardinals just trounced the Jets.
Yeah.
But it's being our Seahawks this time instead of the Cardinals.
That's right. And if the Cardinals can trounce them, we beat the Cardinals. So we're clearly better than them.
We should win 70-3.
Yeah. And they might do it with 15 spoon pick sixes.
Ooh, I'd like that. Yeah.
Because we ain't going to do it offensively. So.
You don't think so?
No.
All right.
If this team.
Did you say 15? That adds up to more than 70.
I know. That's how awesome it would be. Don't question the math. But yeah, I feel like with this offense right now, if they crack 17 points, I'm like, wow, what a day.
We want more than that. Can we get more than that? Let's see more than that, Seahawks.
We can. We should. Let's go.
Let's get to the second half of the show. If you've made it this far and you're getting to the second half of the show, you probably want more Seahawks talk even after this show's over. So be sure and check out For the Hawkra, which if you're looking for more Seahawks stuff, it's got me, it's got Adam, it's got Clinton Bonner, Phil Leidick, Wilson Kahn. We've got a slate of shows over there where we do 3 in, 3 out. We do Seahawkers What If. We do PNW Prop Stars. And so all of them approach the upcoming games or previous games in a little bit different way, and we think you'll enjoy them.
Yeah, a lot of different stuff. I think it's the most creative slate of shows in all of Seahawks Talk universe, and it's a ton of fun. So that's where you find it on the audio side, folks, on For the Hawkra, anywhere you get podcasts. If you're more of a video guy, they will all be right here on the Seahawkers podcast channel. Except
if you're tuning into this in terms of video, you're probably just hearing the audio on the YouTube side right now.
Yeah, so far. We're wearing Brandon down. We're trying to get him to where we'll put the full thing out on video. We'll see. All
right. Looking at the NFC West, Adam, this is my favorite part because it was an oh so glorious week throughout the NFC West. We took down the rival Cardinals. The Niners fall in fantastic fashion to the Green Bay Packers. And then the LA Rams lose in equally fun fashion to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, it was fabulous to watching Saquon have his record-breaking day against McVay and the Rams. I guess the Florida State dudes couldn't stop him, so that was fun. The Hawker is as high as it gets right now, right? Yeah. The perfect football weekend.
You just got to keep it up.
Yeah, and I do think that they're going to keep it up, especially defensively speaking, for the last half of the year, and make it interesting and be a team that people are like, I don't necessarily want to see them. That's not great.
Well, and when you look at the opponents that the other teams have to face this week, it doesn't get any easier for the Niners because they've got to go to Buffalo and play the Bills. The Rams have to go on the road and play the Saints, which I feel like that should be a bounce back game for them, but we'll see. Saints could play some teams tough. And then for the Cardinals, they've got to go on the road and play the Vikings.
Yeah, that's a tough game. Vikings have rebounded a little bit after their little 2-game skid there, and Darnold's played a couple solid games, and I like where they're going. It could be, we got to see the Vikings here later as well, I think. Which,
we do. Packers and Vikings back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that, but maybe I am. Maybe it'll be fun. Maybe that'll be the Seahawks coming out party there. But yeah, the Niners going to Buffalo. That's hilarious. I wonder if Kyle Shanahan's going to start a quarterback with a broken non-throwing hand again.
It was an interesting choice, right? Brandon Allen fans finding out that he had a broken finger, and they decided to play him instead of Dobbs. Interesting choice, putting a quarterback with a broken finger out there.
Yeah, I think the Pastronaut he's a lot like Fitzmagic there for a minute. 3-4 game stretches, same with like Minshew.
Right.
I think Dobbs is entering that category. Why in the world? I like Brandon Allen fine as a backup, but if he's got a broken hand, a broken finger, what are we doing? And then Grant Cohn asked Kyle in the presser, and Kyle was incredulous, he could go. Well, he could play. Doesn't look like he fumbled twice.
Generally, as a quarterback, you need those. You need all of your digits.
You need all the digits. Yeah, you can't just. This isn't guard where you just tape them all together into one and go out there and get it done. This is quarterback, man.
Yeah, very strange.
I find it interesting. So, in Niners media, among a lot of the fandom, the fire Kyle stuff is through the roof, right? Mm-hmm. They all want him gone. Then I'm listening to Rich Eisen the other day, and on one of the overreaction shows, and Brockman asked him, "Oh, this is Kyle's last season, or Kyle's on the hot seat, or something like that." And Rich just couldn't believe it. He was beside himself. So what camp do you fall into here?
Well, would I want Kyle gone? Yeah, because I think that them falling into a relatively good coach again is very unlikely. As an ownership group, they've tended to pick dudes who either didn't last long or weren't good enough to last long. And Shanahan falls into that group of really good, but probably not the guy that's going to be able to finish and win you the big one. And that can be very frustrating as a fan base. And after losing 2 Super Bowls, you probably should move on, but it's gonna be painful for Niners going forward if they do that.
Yeah, I think some people would feel relief out of the faithful by having Kyle gone, but it does feel like he's lost that entire locker room and that entire team. I would love to see them go on another Tom Sula, Chip Kelly kind of run, head coaching wise, over the next 5-6 years.
If they are going to keep Kyle, though, they should significantly overhaul the roster. If he's lost the locker room, then you get rid of those dudes that you've lost.
Yeah, maybe that's the way you go. I think they're getting old too, and they got to pay Purdy. Yeah. I mean, it's showing up. Oh shoot! I just thought of something, and then it just left my mind when it came to Shanahan here.
I mean, looking at their IR list, it would suggest that many of them are getting old.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be tough sledding for Kyle. Oh, that was it. A lot of people saying, well, look, you just can't have him in there with John Lynch trying to buy the groceries. You got to strip his influence and power away from the personnel side, and then it'll get better, because that's really where the problems are here with Kyle. And they're pointing to a lot of draft picks that they felt were Kyle picks, right? And it's like, okay, fine, you could do that, but I've yet to see a coach do better after you start stripping him of power in the organization. That seems to be a good marker that the coach is on the decline.
That worked with Holmgren a little bit for the Seahawks,
I know.
But it wasn't a long lasting, because then the GM they weren't connected, and then the GM wasn't getting the types of players that worked for Holmgren, and ultimately the team declined. And so he took the team to a Super Bowl and, had some playoff runs after he was stripped down to just being the coach, but then it didn't work out long term.
It didn't work out long term. That was about the only one I could think of where I was like, oh, that had a net positive impact, I guess.
For the short term. Yeah.
For the short term, which is, look, in today's NFL, everything is the short term. There's so few things that are long term.
And I think that's one of the reasons why the Niners have success going for the personnel they do, because they go after dudes who want to play tough and play physical, but that burns out players quickly. I mean, I don't think you're getting as long of a career from Kittle as you would if he were on well, he might continue to play that way just as a football player, because he wants to play physical. Debo plays physical, but he's in a running back body. And even Ayuk plays relatively physical, but his body can't hold up to it either. So they find all these guys that they have that mindset to really play physical, but then that's why you end up with these seasons like 1 out of every 3 years where half your starting roster is on the IR.
Yeah, it does seem to have an effect, no doubt about it. But
then the other side, the other years, you have contending teams.
Right. And the flip side is to be more of a finesse team, and then what are you doing? Right. Then you're going nowhere fast every single year, but your players are healthy. Well, fantastic.
So I don't think necessarily stripping Kyle of that fixes everything either. I think you just have to decide if you're going to stay with him. I think you have to make some major changes with that roster.
I think the most fascinating part about it is, if you're moving on from Kyle, do you pay Purdy?
They would, but should they?
I'm not nearly as confident in Brock Purdy in a rebuild situation. I think he's going to look a lot more like a Minshew in that situation.
No, but as an organization, don't you think, well, we have that piece at quarterback, we should hang on to that piece?
If he were Josh Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, Herbert.
That's not how most general managers look at it, though. And owners.
Well, then they're stupid. Because if they're not a dude that can more or less do it all on their own, then, you don't pay him, because he's going to get 55, 60, if not more.
There's a lot of 49ers fans that I think would be pissed if you let Purdy go, though. I think he's a guy that they like to root for.
I think half of them do and half of them don't. I think he's about as polarizing as Geno for the Niners fan base. Oh, yeah.
For the Niners fan base, really?
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case.
Oh, I do.
I bet if there's any percentage, like max 30.
Oh, God, no. I'd say it's easy 55-45.
Wow.
Okay. Pro
Purdy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe you have more of a pulse on the Niners fan base than I do.
Oh, maybe just for this year, because it's been fun watching their coverage, considering how much of a dumpster fire they are, and just kind of reveling in that. Like, it's been a good time.
Oh, yeah. Well, and if you watch a lot of Grant Cohn, then you're probably more toward the frustrated side. If you watch and listen to stats, you know, he's more pro Shanahan and Purdy in that offense. And so you got to put some balance in your 49ers coverage, Adam.
Oh, yeah. No, I've listened to a bunch of different dudes. The Krug guy, Stats a little bit, Lombardi a little bit. Yeah.
Well, Lombardi, isn't he very pro, like, homerish?
Oh, yeah. See, the hard thing for Lombardi is I can't believe he can talk on air with Kyle's catfish.
All right.
If you want to bleep that one, you can. You can just take it out.
Do I need your permission?
No, not at all. But like, I won't be mad. But I think it's a good joke. I think it should stay in.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see. Can the Rams fire McVay too? Like, how bad do they have to play the rest of this year so they can just blow him out of there too? Then we can.
Well, I don't think they're going to have to fire him. Doesn't it feel like to you that when Stafford's gone, he's gone?
Maybe he wants to close it out with Stafford and be done.
I think so. You know,
how much time does Stafford have left?
2 games? Like, he's got probably this year. I don't think he's going to come back next year.
No, you don't think? All right.
It's just, I don't know. His body, man, he's just been so beat up over his career. He's still damn good. Like, he's the antithesis of Aaron Rodgers at this point.
Oh, yeah. He might want to outplay Aaron.
Well, he already did.
Well, I mean, in terms of longevity.
Yeah. Maybe that's the way he goes. I don't know.
All right. Well, I know how it goes when it comes to our members of the flock. They went to getintheflock.com. They're helping to support the show. $3 above gets you into our Discord group. We chatted up on game day. It's the place where you want to be to find out where Clinton and Wilson are going to be coming up, because they're going to be in New York. They're going to the game. They're going to be watching it live and likely watching a Seahawks victory.
That's right. I mean, it basically seals it, doesn't it?
I mean, Clinton doesn't go to games where he watches the team lose, except when he goes with me.
All I know
Solo.
is that the last...
Like, when we're together, it's great. When it's just Clinton and me, it's awful.
Yeah, all I know is the last game that Clinton and Wilson went to was a victory over an AFC East opponent.
So it's pretty much a lock.
Yeah.
Also a lock that our executive producers are amazing. DCH, Ryan Peterson, our live executive producer out on YouTube, JC Schilling and the 313th, and, of course, Jake Burdine.
They're just amazing folks. Sticking with us. We appreciate it, man. Really help making this show go as we continue to try to up the ante here. I actually want to sit down with Brandon and then maybe bring Clinton in too and talk about new internet and what that means and what we can start adding.
Up in the ante in terms of what we do with the show.
Yeah.
Something to talk about? We've got Daniel Abbott upping the ante. He's going from 3 pounds to 36 pounds out at getintheflock.com. And Dan says, realized I hadn't been paying my membership for ages. Just converted my monthly to yearly to settle me for the year. Sorry for that. Keep up the constant content, fellas. From Dan.
Hey, appreciate it a ton, Dan. We will easily make the exception here on that one. And that's it's very generous. Thank you.
We've also got Stephen Kirkpatrick coming in, $16.06 with the score donation via Zelle.
Yeah, like clockwork, man. And it's just super cool. That's another thing, man. Like, one of the reasons I want them to run the ball to get better offensively so they win more games so we make more money. Like, I am selfish here. Like, let's not get it twisted.
Yeah, it's not all about the money, but it's mostly about the money.
It's somewhat almost all about the money, or not at all. But however you want to look at it.
Also want to thank Guaranteed Barbecue, Garen there in Smeltersville, Idaho. If you go to him, ask for the Little Flocker discount, you get 12% off your entire order. It's something worth checking out, especially if you're going through North Idaho or maybe you live in North Idaho and want to check it out.
Absolutely. Definitely check it out. Not hard to miss it, or it's really hard to miss it in Smelterville because there's Walmart?
There's Walmart,
O'Reilly's,
and it's across from the dollar store.
Yeah, and then, they should just rename that whole stretch of I-90 Dave Smith.
Right. It was a little bit easier when it was because the Dave Smith place was right across the street from that. But that once you start seeing the signs for Dave Smith, you're getting close to Garen.
That's exactly right.
Because those billboards are everywhere on the I-90 strip.
Yeah, he's got 10 car lots all up and down there now.
Yeah.
There's lots everywhere. I think Dave Smith basically runs that entire economy there, with Garen being a close second.
Well, it's the car dealership economy that they drive down and eat at Garen's.
There you go. Exactly.
Cyclical.
So if you need a car, go see Dave and then go see Garen, and you're going to have yourself a good day.
Are we getting paid by Dave? When did this start?
I don't know.
Are we getting paid by Garen?
Look, I will say this. I respect Dave Smith Motors because Bronco Jared once took his truck there as a trade-in and drove it all the way from Billings. So it was 10-hour drive. And it was on its last leg. He pulls off the on-ramp to go trade it, and they guaranteed him however many dollars, right, for his trade-in so he could buy this other truck. And as he's getting off the on-ramp, his right rear tire locks up, the wheel bearing goes bad, and he drives it into the lot with that back tire locked up, just all the way in. And they honored the price even with that. So,
wow.
Give him some credit there.
All right, well, good for them.
That was hilarious.
All right. Let's talk Pick'em, Adam, and before we get to our Overlord Eevee, why don't we get your Thursday night pick? Because it is going to be the Bears going up against the Detroit Lions. Well, that's the first. I guess we got all Thanksgiving games. So do we need to go through the whole Thanksgiving slate here?
I guess we do, because I'm going to be driving on Thanksgiving. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, then. Well, maybe we need to go. And we have a Friday game, too. Holy smokes. We've got Thursday and Friday football. It's going to be a fun weekend.
Yeah.
And you're going to miss it all.
Yep.
All right. Bears, Lions, who you got?
Lions.
98%. Going with the Lions. Giants, Cowboys, and it's only 5% for the Giants. I think we might see some. I'm going risk pick too.
Yeah, I'll take that.
There's no way that should be 95% for the Cowboys. Yeah, it's a home game, but I think it's going to be Drew Lock unless they decide to roll out. I don't know, whoever. Do they sign another dude off the street now that Cutlets is injured too?
Yeah, I don't think so. Finally, Drew
is
Lock
Colt
gets a
McCoy
chance.
going to come back and get the start ahead of Drew?
I think he enjoys his YouTube channel. I don't think so.
Drew's got a YouTube channel?
No.
Colt
McCoy?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. He popped up about the Cards Seahawks game in the thumbnail in my YouTube.
Get out of here,
for
Colt.
A game preview. And I was like, wait, what? No. I don't want to see Colt McCoy on that.
All right. So we're both taking the Giants for our risk pick this week.
Yeah.
There's other opportunities for risk picks, too. I may take a chance on another one, but it's probably not going to be the Dolphins as they go up against the Packers in Lambeau on Thursday night.
Yeah, I do like the Packers. I think their defense will put the clamps down on the
cold weather Dolphins.
Yeah, exactly. Tua in the Lambeau.
And then Friday night, another lopsided pick'em game with the Chiefs at 10-1 going up against the 2-9 Raiders. I have to expect that you are with the 98% going with Kansas City.
Can I take points?
You may not take points.
Okay, well then Chiefs -1. I'll take Chiefs.
Okay, well it's 12.
They're going to win by 1 point.
Chiefs -12 is the official line.
That's free money. Take the Raiders +12.
Especially after the Carolina Panthers played them so close. You think that they're...
Especially after every single team has played them close this year.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, that takes
points.
care of the first 4 games anyway, and whether or not we record the rest coming up this week. I know you're going to be on the road, but At least that gets us through the next couple days.
It does.
All right. Let's welcome in Eric, who is in purgatory, with a note to our Overlord. Eric says, Dear Edie Overlord, I swear by the Largent, the Zorn, and the Holy Catfish that it was not my intention to pick against the Seahawks in Week 11. I remember being in a rush and experimenting with that autofill button. My beyond sports hate of the vile 49ers gives me a clockwork orange-like revulsion at just the sight of their red logo. There is no way I would have knowingly clicked on it. Your punishment decision was not enough. I apologize to all Seahawkers to atone for my misdeed. For the rest of the season, I will now only click on our revered Seahawks logo and leave all other false idol matchups blank. Then at the end of the season, I'll slowly back away in shame from the Pick'em Shrine, flagellating with a 10-yard marker chain and delete my profile. It is the least that I deserve. Go Hawks, Eric in purgatory.
Oh, man, Eric, you can keep the profile, man.
Yeah.
But the self-flagellation with the sticks, like that's in the chain from the sticks, that's going to have to happen. Yeah.
Although I can understand as Eric, like, to not be associated with that profile anymore. Like, you delete the one and then you recreate a new one so you can come back. But then that way it doesn't have all of your Pick'em history. I think the Pick'em history gets deleted in the summertime sometime anyway. Yeah. So because I've had a hard time going back and trying to figure out who won. And then I've had to listen back to shows because I didn't keep the record, and I've got to go back and listen to who I announced. And especially when you're as late about getting prizes out as I am, I run into those issues.
Yeah, but you're still awesome. Don't self-flagellate yourself with the chain from the sticks. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
That was an awesome email.
It was a great email. We have another great one coming from Edie, our Overlord. Dear underlings, you follow the rules and you are rewarded. You all picked the Seahawks and they won. See what happens when you all have good Hawkra? Bronco Jared, you didn't pick the Seahawks, but did pick the Broncos as per the deal. Yes, the Broncos won, but did you see? The Seahawks won. You should have picked the Seahawks. Bad choice, but then you also support the Broncos. So 2 poor choices there, I guess. Overall, Wirehawks continues to dominate with 128 correct picks, still 2 clear from the chasing pack, of which Fernando Tejada has second place to themselves with 126. Wow. Okay. And lock it away with sole possession of third with 125. There are 3 more tied with fourth on 124. Toonhawk, I Like to Touch by Bobo, and W Divining Rod. Dad is sitting on 123 picks and is angry as he is, in his words, did a Brandon and chased some picks and changed a pick between the early and late window, which cost him a game. Evidently, he's never changing again. The weekly prize goes to Jamarcus Russell Wilson with 11 correct. From what I can see, they were the only person in the world who thought the Browns would beat the Steelers. In the Brandon versus Adam mini league, Adam got 8 picks correct to leave him on 117 overall, still 10 clear of Brandon on 107, who also got 8 correct, meaning another tie week, which means Adam is still winning by a lot. Brandon, I was reading about an Eskimo tribe this week who only have 2 numbers, 1 and many. I think you should adopt this counting system, as if you do, you are tied on many correct picks with Adam. Have an awesome week. Go Hawks. Love Eevee.
I didn't know that's how the Inuit folks counted. Like that's pretty amazing. No, fantastic job by the Overlord. Hey, look, and she's not wrong. Look what happens when we have the United Hawker that we need. And 2-game winning streak, first place in the NFC West. Defense looks like, a nascent burgeoning version of maybe a LOB kind of defense eventually someday.
Okay. I like where your head's at here.
Yeah. So that's where it's at. It took all of us as 12s. So don't screw up this week, folks. I don't want to lose the stupid Jets. Come on.
No.
I
have a feeling, and even looking at the CBS Sports Pick'em League, the Seahawks are at 88%. So that leaves 12 for the Jets, which means it's pretty much 100% Seahawks.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's written in the numbers right there, Brandon. We're winning.
John comes in, the Bard, with his email, says, must have missed last week's deadline, but never mind, as I can now celebrate 2 wins, one in Norway and one back home. So I cannot have jinxed them by coming back. Mind you, the second one wasn't as good as beating the Niners, but a win is a win, eh, Adam? I have been looking at the standings, and it looks like we have little chance of a wild card, but at this moment we are the 3rd seed in the NFC, thanks to the South. Wow. I know it's been a crazy season, and I know we can fall apart on any given week, but we are capable of winning the next 2 games and the division, and we are also capable of finishing last. So, damn it, let's go and win the division, and therefore, go Hawks. Greetings from the Up in the Clouds Bard.
Yeah, all right, man. Well, I appreciate that, John. And yeah, man, just enjoying dubs all over the European continent. That's pretty fun right there. And he's not wrong. I mean, yeah, we could finish in first. We could finish in last when it comes to the NFC West at this point because it is so tight. In terms of us not being in contention for a wild card spot, like, are we sure like this commander slide isn't real? Like that opens some things up.
It's true.
You know, the Vikings, are we sure that, you know, they're going to be a wild card team? I don't know. Like, I could see them going south inexplicably at some point here. I guess the Bucs are on the outside looking in because let's see, the Falcons are leading.
The Falcons are
South.
up 1 game, but I feel like the Bucs made that comeback because the Falcons aren't. I mean, yeah, it's probably going to be one of those 2 teams. The Falcons stink. I feel like the Bucs are at least on their way up. Mike Evans coming back. Like I would put my money on the Bucs winning that division.
Well, that gives us a leg up, right? Because we own the tiebreaker over the Falcons.
Right. So there we go. We got the tiebreaker over the Falcons. The Lions, Vikings, Packers. That looks pretty solid. But yeah, Commanders, they could. We have the Kingsbury slide in view here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you've got the tiebreaker over the Cards. You beat the Rams last week of the year. Isn't it last week of the year we play Rams?
Yep.
Yep. Then that's a wash in terms of tiebreakers, right?
You got to win the rest of the division games to, I think, make sure that you have that division tiebreaker if there's multiple teams finishing together.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Right now, in the playoff picture in the NFC currently, we are the 3 seed.
That's what John said.
I know.
Because of the South.
It's so weird.
So that's one of the tough things, though, about say we finish as the 3 seed. You are either facing it's probably not going to be the Lions. They would be the one that would likely get the 1 seed. That could change though. The Vikings are right there. So you're probably facing a really tough NFC North team though as the 3 seed.
Yeah, I mean you're going to have to play them at some point, right?
Because the Eagles will likely finish. It's either going to be the Eagles or Detroit that gets the bye.
Yeah.
I would bet on the Lions.
I would too. But, I mean, I don't think the Eagles' schedule is all that crazy going down the stretch either.
It's easy down the stretch too. So,
yeah.
Whereas the Lions probably have it a little bit tougher because they play in a tougher division.
I don't think it matters to them.
I don't think so either, but we'll have to see. There's a lot. My biggest point is that as a 3 seed, you have to face the best team out of the North that isn't the North winner.
And, you know, as I'm looking at it, you know, Vikings, Packers, which team is the best out of those 2, would you say?
I think it's the Packers right now.
Do you?
I think.
Okay.
But it would be a home game, too. And we're actually playing both those teams at home coming up. So we'll get a preview of what both of those matchups would look like, I suppose. Yeah, that'll be fun. Look, if it's the Vikings that you'd play, like, okay. If it's the Packers you play, okay. I don't know. Those 2 teams are dead nuts even to me right now. I guess I just look at the Packers quarterback situation and I feel like they have a better situation. Yeah, well, yes. But then the Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs things, like, that's kind of a wash, right? Yeah. And defensively, both playing very well, both teams.
I mean, I like Jefferson and Addison over Watson, Dobbs, and
oh yeah,
who's the third dude that everybody was high on this year?
Yeah, that guy.
That guy.
Reed?
Yes, thank you.
I didn't have to look it up. I just knew that.
Yeah, good job by you.
Thanks. All right, on to do better and better at life.
My do better this week, Brandon, is for Urban Meyer getting put on blast during the Manning cast on Monday Night Football. This was actually really fun. First, it was the Wilson brothers, Owen and Luke, on with the Manning brothers. And you'd think that'd be delightful, but it wasn't. It was just awkward and weird.
Oh, no.
But the one cool thing that came out of that was Owen Wilson talking about being part of some celebrity flag football game where Urban Meyer was the coach. And like Urban was walking past him, was like, do I know you from somewhere or something? Like totally did not recognize Owen Wilson. Had no idea who he was. So that was kind of interesting. And then in the next quarter, they bring in Mike Vrabel, former head coach of the Tennessee Titans. They're interviewing Mike Vrabel. They're talking about different things. The Wilson brothers being on there. Vrabel references the Owen Wilson story about not being recognized. He's like, oh yeah, Urban Meyer, after the game of his last game as head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, which was Titans Jaguars, he saw Mike Vrabel and was like, do I know you? And Mike Vrabel's like, yeah, I'm the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, and I worked for you for 2 years at one point. Urban Meyer still didn't know who he was.
He doesn't know who Aaron Donald is either. Does Urban Meyer know anybody?
No, his head is shoved so far up his own ass and with his own ego that he doesn't know anybody else on the planet. It was unbelievable. Urban Meyer, open your eyes. There's other things and people outside of you. Do better.
Oh man, that's pretty bad when you can't even place a face of a dude who worked for you on your staff.
They're opposing head coach in the game.
Right.
Who are you?
I feel like I should know you from somewhere.
I think he's gotten confused as to how the Who game works. Like you Who people who have a name that you definitely know,
yeah,
but aren't very good. Like they don't live up to the name or the hype. That's when you give them the Who. See, Urban Meyer thinks that's everybody who's ever walked the earth except for him.
It's a fun way to approach life, but probably not going to get you hired again anytime soon.
Oh, no, he did that to himself with that lap dance.
Well, might do better this week. And on Tuesday, Adam, we don't have any information on fines for this week. But the fact that we even have to expect it from the NFL this week deserves a do better. And why do we expect a fine coming to one of our Seahawks players for something that they did during this past game against the Arizona Cardinals? It's because we saw Jameson Williams do the Marshawn celebration against the Jaguars the previous week, and he got fined almost $20,000 for doing the Marshawn Lynch celebration. But here's the hypocrisy of it, Adam. The NFL, when you go to YouTube and you look at the YouTube video of the recap, they used that image of Jameson Williams celebrating in the end zone as their thumbnail image for that game. And Dan Campbell was asked about it in his press conference. Now it's changed. Somehow it magically got changed after Dan Campbell was asked about it. We didn't even get a Kobe Bryant image on our thumbnail, but Kobe's probably going to get fined just like Jameson Williams did. And for that, NFL, do better.
Man, I almost went this direction. I didn't know about the JMO thumbnail part. That is next level. But yeah, man, like, I don't understand the league. Like, when Kobe Bryant goes flying into the end zone grabbing these nuts, like, it is so much fun. It was so much fun. Now, was I happy about it during the game? No, I couldn't enjoy these nuts because I knew that we were going to get a penalty for something like that, because you know the No Fun League can't just have that. But for them to then fine JMO $10,000 a gonad and then a likely fine coming for Kobe, and then to try to profit off of it even more. How many billions do billionaires need? Like, I'm just curious.
How do we know that it's 10,000 per and not, I don't know, 6,500?
Oh, we don't. I thought the JMO fine was 20.
I know, but do we know what to devise it by? Maybe it's 3.
Oh, you think? Oh, maybe, I didn't know that JMO was packing like that.
I don't know either. That was an assumption by you to make that it was 2.
I guess I just figured he had normal nuts, like silly me.
On to Better at Life.
All right, man. My Better at Life than Skip Bayless this week is for famous Jameis Winston. Look, he's not a great quarterback, but he sure is fun. And he's a weirdo in all the best ways. And he just says things sometimes that are super funny. But I've always thought that it would be hilarious for like a Will Ferrell type to get behind center and just start with like a totally different cadence of like, Blue 42, saw your mom in my bedroom last night. Say what? Like, just whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
I just thought it'd be fun if like somebody could like have some fun with the cadence. I think they should tell jokes. I think it'd be better.
Yeah.
Well, Jameis, in a situation where they're trying to draw the Steelers offside, gets up to the line of scrimmage and he's in shotgun, gets up there, starts his cadence, all your regular stuff. Yeah. Shift, whatever, blah, 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 blah. By the end of it, with the play clock running down, knowing that the Steelers are definitely not going to jump off sides, he goes, somebody jump off sides. Damn. and then it goes off the field. That's hilarious to me. Jameis Winston, thank you for doing something I've always dreamed a quarterback would do. You are better at life than Skip Bayless.
See, now this needs to be like the Marshawn Lynch celebration. More quarterbacks need to adopt it, just as more people going into the end zone are adopting the Marshawn celebration.
Mm-hmm.
If the NFL, somebody has to be the person to get the fine every week before fans start fighting back to the NFL and saying, this is what we want versus what we don't want.
Yeah. Like, I don't care that Dak Prescott is a huge Toad fan in Mario Kart because, like, at the line of scrimmage, here we go. Like, every time. Like, I don't need that. What I need is somebody jump off sides. Damn.
Yeah.
Or, like, anything else like that. It's hilarious. Yeah. Just start talking smack in the middle of your cadence to, like, the middle linebacker.
Yeah. Start calling people out, and maybe they'll come at you. And then you get your offside that way.
Yeah. It'd be a lot of fun.
Well, my Better at Life this week, Adam, is for our head coach, Mike Macdonald. I've heard more than one player reference the fact that Mike Macdonald recently had the team meet up with some members of the Navy SEALs. And we've heard about how the SEALs talk to them about staying together as a team, even if the game plan unravels, and how that kind of parallels with the NFL and having a plan, but then also having to stay together when that plan doesn't work the way you intended it to. And I also liked with that part of it too, Mike Macdonald, head coach, that is our Salute to Service nominee as well for the entire team, going up against the other 31 teams for the Salute to Service award. And we've only got a few days left, Adam, to go to NFL.com and put in our votes. I did it today. You can do it once per day. Cast your vote. Let's show our support for our head coach, Mike Macdonald, our Salute to Service nominee, better at life than Skip Bayless.
Man, I need to get to voting. Like I've been hanging our coach out to dry. One of the things from all those interactions between the military folks and I think he even had Jocko Willnick in to speak too, who I think is a fantastic speaker. One of the phrases that came out of that, like, first off, I really am uncomfortable when they compare like military stuff to like football.
Yeah,
it's kind of like,
well, like the draft room being the war room. Like,
yeah,
I never cared for that much either. But
yeah, I don't hate it. Yeah, I'm not mad about it, but it's always been kind of like,
it's weird. Yeah,
yeah. But one phrase that came out of that turn of phrase that I think is really good is talking to Geno about moving on to the next play. And he had picked up from one of those visits the phrase, clear the next room.
Oh, yeah.
Which I really thought, like, because words have power, right? So, like, the idea of, putting yourself in the headspace of, I have to let that go because it is so serious what I'm doing next, clearing the next room. Like, I have to focus on that and flush the rest because that's all that matters in the world. I thought was really, really clever. And I think that's something that could be helpful in the mental sides of sports.
Yeah, there's a lot of those things. And that's why I think it is important, whether it's the military or whether it's other professions, to where there might be some parallels in terms of how you think about certain things. I think it can definitely be a good way to just give all these athletes a more well-rounded approach to how they might want to think about, because you never know. Some of these guys, they might not have, the military thing might not click for them, but maybe, a firefighter thing clicks for them, or maybe there, some other component of being in a high stress environment clicks with them. So, and Pete Carroll was really good about that too. I'm happy to see that tradition carrying on, as having a lot of those guys come in and talk to our Seahawks team.
Yeah, super cool. I think Mike has done a good job of continuing to, bring some of the Pete Carroll stuff that was still working, and, then bring in his own stuff too. It's been pretty cool.
Well, another cool thing, Adam, it's our $12 members and above. We like to thank our $12 members and up at least once a month, and it is Thanksgiving with this weekend coming up. So I felt like it was the perfect time to thank those folks. Let's hear from them.
Keith Ketover, a.k.a. Flocktimus Prime, University of Cybertron, Little Flockers, roll out.
DCH from Sparks, Nevada, the University of Montana Grizzlies.
Gary Blum from Chappaqua, New York, and the University of Pennsylvania, your 2016 Pick'em League champion.
Ron Pepper, UNLV Runnin' Rebels, San Francisco, California.
This is Hock Van Dyke from the beautiful city of London and the capital of the UK.
Lisa in Seattle.
Samuel Gelber, NoHo, California.
David Van Cleve, Camas, Washington, home of the Papermakers.
Leo Jose, Luleå, Sweden, from Luleå Eskimos and Renkommaren Front.
Aaron Fisher, coming in from Henderson, Nevada. Go Hawks!
Chris Boucher, a.k.a. the biggest little flocker, South Central Louisiana State University. Go Mud Dogs.
Hey, it's JC Schilling, back from Germany, living on beautiful Whidbey Island now with Quinn and Hudson.
Go Tyler! Go Geno!
Go Hawks!
Marty from Down Under, Australia. Go Hawks!
Hey Seahawkers, my name is Garen Taylor. I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world, North Idaho. Hashtag on the roads. Go Hawks.
You heard from our executive producers, DCH and JC Schilling. Also a big thanks to executive producers Ryan Peterson and Jake Burdine. And we continue on down the list of our $12 supporters and above, starting with Rebecca in Manhattan Beach, California, Christina in Manassas, Virginia, Craig in Camas, Jeremiah in the Bronx, Sven in Berlin, Deutschland, Jonathan in Ridgefield, Kevin in Great Glen, England, Brandon in Huntersville, North Carolina, Brian in Omak, Hector in Monroe, James in Beaux Arts, Pepper in Greer, South Carolina, Kevin in Surrey, BC, JC in Horsford, England, Ryan in Berlin, Connecticut, Connie in Gothenburg, Sweden, Tracy in Kaneohe, Hawaii, Marvin in Riverdale, Utah, Tim in Olympia, Jeffrey in Kansas City, Glenn in Ocoee, Florida, John in New York, Patrick in Sacramento, Bryson in Eltopia, Jeremy in Federal Way, Josh in Candor, New York, Ken in Hutto, Texas, Mario in Seattle, Paul in Portland, Daniel C. in the Greater Hochdom, Norma in the Greater Hochdom, Cora in Ditters, Deutschland, Anders in Viola, Denmark, Warren in Dundee, Oregon, Chris in Austin, Eugene in Henderson, Nevada, Jeff in Bainbridge Island, Amy in Squim, Marlon in the Greater Hochdom, Richard in Killeen, Texas, Joseph in Vancouver, Ryan in Salt Lake City, Utah, Jamie in Oswestry, England, Joshua in the Greater Hochdom, Rafe in Beaverton, Oregon, DJ in Menifee, California, BB in the Greater Hochdom, Terrence in Dallas, Spooty Poo in Olympia, Gordon in Valdez, Alaska, Jeff in Gilbert, Arizona, Bridget in Redmond, Jason in Panama City, Florida, Kayla in Vancouver, Tanner in Kalispell, Montana, Mark in Bexley Heath, England, Alexander in Oranienburg, Deutschland, Sean in Cascade, Iowa via Kalispell, Montana, RJ in Kellogg, Idaho, Jason in Portland, Oliver in Fort St. John, BC. Ian in Seattle. Ovary Smasher 69 in Phoenix. B-Walls 22 in New York. Jay in Fairbanks. Russell in Harpenden, England. Sam in Alamonte Springs, Florida. Corey in Robertson, Australia. Chris in Manchester, England. Nathan in Fife. Greg in Lake City, Colorado. Charles in Bremerton. Mike in Kelowna, BC. Ken in Stanwood. Edward in the Greater Hockham. Stu in Navarre, Florida. The Poetrist in Boise. RJ in Bucyrus, Kansas. Ranger Luke in DuPont. John in Waco, Nebraska. Martin in Ferrum, Denmark. Root in the Greater Hockham. And Jeremiah in the Greater Hockham. A big thanks to all of our $12 supporters and above, Adam. It is Thanksgiving. As we go out, is there anything Thanksgiving? I know you're going to be working, but are you going to be at least able to enjoy a meal over the weekend and something that you're looking forward to?
Looks like me and other Brandon will be zipping down the interstate starting early Thursday and driving throughout the entire day. Maybe there'll be a good meal at a Denny's. I don't know. It's okay though. It's part of the job. Like, now that I'll have to step in a little bit more, like it's something I'm used to. Holidays, I'm not a holidays person anyway, although Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday by far.
Yeah. Do you go something with cranberry sauce at Denny's if it's on the menu? Are you a cranberry guy?
I'm neutral on the cranberry. Like, I'm good with it. I'm more of a stuffing gravy guy.
Okay.
Like, yeah, that's where it's at for me. Good sausage stuffing.
Yeah.
And pecan pie.
Pecan pie?
Pecan pie.
I've never been a big pecan pie guy.
Well,
I don't know. Nut pie seems weird.
I love nut pie. Yeah, I can't wait to put it in my mouth. It's nice and sweet, nutty.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.